That should have been the title of the lesson tonight. Living by faith. Because I was already ready tonight to move into the Psalms and continue the story. And I thought, well, that's not my tradition. This is graduation night. And so I'm switching gears. And because I switched gears, there is no PowerPoint. So just look at me tonight. Sorry. That's all you got. That's all you got. Graduation is a cool thing. I found a really neat story. It's almost graduation day, and everyone in the class was going to get a diploma except Jeffrey. The graduation rehearsal, the entire senior class stood up and began chanting, "Let Jeffrey graduate, let Jeffrey graduate, let Jeffrey graduate." Reluctantly, the principal decided to give Jeffrey one final chance. He turned to Jeffrey and said, y'all have heard this, haven't you? Okay, Jeffrey. I have 5 apples in my right hand, and I have 5 apples in my left hand. How many apples do I have? Not sure the answer. A nervous Jeffrey answered, 10. The whole senior class shouted, "Give him another chance." Give him another chance. We have all been at moments in our lives when we're anticipating and we're waiting, for that marvelous next step, the next move. But if you remember, this all started way back. I mean, it started for me. They didn't even have kindergarten when I went to school. Thank you, Robert. It's a couple of us could, we didn't have any. I was the first grader when I didn't go to kindergarten. I didn't get to do the nap thing and the game thing. I went in and had to study. But if you remember, one of the first things, well, you learn your numbers first, but you learn your ABCs. And that's the basics. I mean, that's what you got to figure out. What are the ABCs? What are the basic things? Whether it's high school or college, or I heard somebody graduate, like from the 5th grade earlier today, there was somebody graduating from the 5th grade. You graduate from every grade now, I think that, right? Kindergarten, or diplomas, caps and gowns, all that kind of thing for every grade. That's a whole nother sermon. But anyway, so again, the ABCs. Well, that's what we're going to go to a text that's not your normal baccalaureate graduating concept. So we're going to go over Luke chapter 15, start at verse 11. Now, most of you know, we're going to the story that Jesus shares as a result of being in the tax collectors and the Pharisees' presence, and they call Jesus out because they see this man receives sinners and eats with them. And this is the culmination of that story when he talks about the sheep, the coin, and the boy. You go, what in the world are you doing? Well, just hang on a minute, okay? Because in every one of these instances, it's about a situation where Jesus is trying to focus them. And the essence of the last story, which is the one we're going to use, the story of the sons, I've changed the name of it. I know my Bible says prodigal son, but I wish it needs to be called the story of the sons. Daughters, if you would, whichever way because we got ladies and gentlemen that are transitioning this year. When you look at this, anywhere we are in our life, when you talk about ABCs, I'm going to share just 3. A, B, C. As we look at, because I know some of you are getting nervous, the alphabet has 26 letters. We're just going to start. Because I took you through the 7 this morning. That was a little longer than normal. Tonight we got a wonderful little fellowship, so we might get out of here a little early, maybe. Boy, y'all just don't know how to react to any kind of thing. Is he telling the truth? Does he have any clue what ABCs. If you'll notice, in the story of the sons, verse 11, a certain man had 2 sons. Don't start with he had 1 son, he had 2 sons. The younger son of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of the goods that falls to me. So he divided them his livelihood. You ever missed that before? This story's about the one son. Nope, about two sons. He divided to them the livelihood. It's not just for the one that's leaving, it's for the one that's staying. It's for what I call porch son. Not the prodigal son, you got the porch son. Now, I did a whole series of lessons probably several months ago on staying on the porch, getting on the porch, those coming back to the porch, that kind of thing. This is a whole different concept. This is where, at this point, the parent decides what he's going to do because of what happens. And see, when you read this, that the one son expresses himself there in verse 12. Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me, so he divided to them his livelihood. Now, this is really weird in the Jewish culture. That's the thing that makes this a very interesting story. Now, if you'll skip way down because I want to get the other son's input in here. At verse 25. The older son was in the field. This is afterward, but I want you to hear his heart. As he drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked what were the things meant. He said to him, Your brother has come, and because he has received him safe and sound, your father has killed the fatted calf. Y'all ahead of me, aren't you? Verse 28. But he was rejoicing. Same Bible I man stuff. He was angry and would not go in. Therefore his father came. Well, it's a whole nother thought here in a minute. Because if you'll notice, the father goes to both sons. Not just to one coming back down the road and running to meet him. He steps out of the house and goes and meets the other son on the back porch. Okay, number one, ABC. Never underestimate the value of attitude. For what the young son asked for and the other son, you've got one, of course, you know the story. I look in this audience, you know the story as well as I do, and that is the fact that the older son's mad because he stayed at home and did what he was supposed to do. And what did it get him? Well, what it got him was the remaining portion of the inheritance of his father, like it should. What was he wanting? What was his desire? You see, attitude has everything to do with the next steps that we take. Our attitude influences what we're going to do. Our attitude about what it's in our minds and in our hearts. Okay, what do I want? Well, there was no doubt. You read verse 12. The youngest son knew what he wanted. There wasn't any doubt in his mind. He didn't want to wait. He wanted to get what was rightfully his now. Now, what he didn't realize in that moment of attitude was, he is in essence telling us, I just wish you were dead. I mean, that's when he normally would get the transition in the inheritance at his father's death. I don't need you anymore. I'm going to go and do my thing. Then you got the older son on the other porch. I'm staying to do the job I'm supposed to. Whole time grumpy. I wonder how you coming out. You're going, maybe you're overthinking this, and there could be a possibility every day at the house while the younger son's gone blowing everything, and the older son's staying home doing what he's supposed to do. He's coming in every evening going, man, I'm glad I stayed. And it may be the case. That may be the case until that moment comes when he thinks, somebody got something that I might wanted to do, but I didn't get it. Attitude. Never underestimate the importance of attitude. And making sure that you know that your attitude is going to establish B. Never underestimate the power of your beliefs. take you to verse number 17. When he came to himself. This whole story is about a young man that thinks, I know what I want to do, but doesn't realize the ramifications of it. But there's something powerful that's already been established in his home. And that is this great process of knowing there's a place. I remember it from my childhood where everything I don't have now still exists. Now you go, what about, so let's keep reading just a little bit. It says, I will arise, go to my father, and will say, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and am no longer worthy to be called your son. He didn't just learn that in the pig pen. He'd been taught that all his life. Responsibility that he knew that he didn't think about when he left home. And it was that belief that he knew, what I've done has violated not only the beliefs of my father, but what I believe as well. I don't deserve to be his son anymore. But I'm willing to go back and to be a servant. Skip with me down to verse 29. Got to hear the other guy's point of view, his belief system. Lo, these many years I've been serving you. It just hit me. And so you got one wasting it, and he's wanting to come back and serve. You got one serving, but he's ticked off because he's done it all these years. I remind you of the whole setting of this wonderful passage, because it goes back to the fact that this man received sinners and eats with them, so he spoke this parable to them. The Pharisees and the scribes think it's about what other people have done, and here we are doing the right thing, and Jesus is reaching out to these people that are doing the wrong thing. Shouldn't he be reaching out to us? Do you remember what Jesus said? I didn't come. I came for the sick and the sinners and the struggling. I've always wondered what the relationship of these two brothers was before this moment in time when the prodigal left the porch son, and the porch son stayed and the prodigal walked out. Now, I can tell you what usually would be if it were your typical Jewish family home situation. That brother would be just as upset at the son as the potential father was when he left. It wasn't because the porch son was losing anything, because he wasn't. He was going to get his. It's already been established. He divided the portion to them. But then he says, I never transgressed your commandment. At any time, you never gave me a young goat that I might make merry with my friends. Soon as this son of yours came, he has devoured your livelihood with harlots. You killed the fatted calf for him. His belief system. I've done the right thing. I'm going to keep doing the right thing, and I'm going to do it even if it makes me mad. There's no point at this where he says, I'm going to stop serving you because of what you've done. See, never underestimate the power of our attitude. Never underestimate the power of belief. C, never underestimate the power of choices. 13, verse 13. Not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. New King James. Wasteful is another translation. When he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in the land. He began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would have gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. Our choices create situations that we could never imagine sometimes. There is such power in making sure, and whatever transition we find ourselves in life, I think this is so powerful. When we look at this story, we go, my attitude is one that I want to do what is best for me. It's going to be a dangerous journey. Because both sons, in essence, had an agenda that was about themselves, not about their father. When you get them and they come into the situation, and when you say, now what I don't have here to share with you, which I wish I had, was you've got the prodigal son realizes, and he comes to himself, and he makes the choice to come back home. Now, obviously, we're going to assume that the older son, the porch son, decides to stay home and realizes, as a result of all of these choices, this is the best thing that I can possibly do. But what we don't realize in this whole process of attitude and beliefs and choices is in reference to the prodigal son and the porch son. I've got to make sure. I'm going to give you 4 quick things about choices. Number 1, be wise in choosing your habits. Those things that define you. The prodigal son knew what he wanted to do. He knew what his habits were. But as he left home, he realized, wait a minute, this ain't working out too good. And it went down, I don't know how quickly. The indication is that when he had spent there, he arose a severe famine occurred, and this situation occurred, and he died. It dawns on him, be wise in choosing your friends, because that impact of individuals in your lives. Now, we learn of the prodigal's choice and the individuals that he spends time with. And we learn of the fact that the porch son makes reference to that you never let me have the celebration with my friends, and he feels like he's been limited. See, because I'm convinced no matter where you go, no matter what you do, that the choice of habits, friends, career paths, mate for life is going to have such a phenomenal impact. And you go, now wait a minute, you went beyond a little bit because neither one of those are addressed here, and that's true. But what is really cool about this story that Jesus establishes is what the father tells the son, or actually what he tells both sons. Because if you remember, as the son's coming in, and as he's trying to explain to him, he's rehearsed his line, Father, I've sinned. If you'll notice in verse number, Father, I've sinned against, verse 21, against heaven and in your sight, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring out the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand, sandals on his feet, bring the fatted calf here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry, for this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. No matter where you go on your journey, no matter the next step, there's always a place where someone wants you and needs you. And that's the Heavenly Father. In this story, it's the Father in this story. It's the individuals in your story. I want every one of us always to know. It's like that many, many years ago. It was at a rally. I think it may have been Fayetteville. It may have not been. When they brought, one of the themes that we had is, home is where they have to take you in. there is always home. Well, what about the porch son? Well, Dad says to him, verse 31, son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours. My attitude, my belief, and my choice will eventually, per those on the right path, will bring me either back or allow me to realize I've always been in the right place. Because that's all the Father was saying to him. It was right that we should make merry and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found. And the signature thought of this story to the Pharisees and the scribes is that's why Jesus came. And no matter where you may be on your journey, I want you to know this signature thing from God. Whether you're away or close to home, there's going to be an individual that's always looking for you and is always going to be for you. I hope you get that. Because the ABCs of life are fundamental to being an individual that God wants us to be. We're blessed. Those that are present tonight, those that are graduating that we're aware of, that we're mindful of and thinking of. It was a blessing to be in Lexington, Kentucky Tuesday and watch my nephew graduate. The tough thing about that was I was in Rupp Arena. And actually, in honor of I think there were pictures, but I haven't seen any posted yet. In honor of my nephew, I wore a Kentucky tie. See, what you got to realize is that God will, and even people will many times, do whatever it takes, whatever is necessary to make sure that your journey toward Him. See, God will let us have the wrong attitude. God will allow us for a time to believe something that's not true. He will even allow us to make poor choices if at the end result of all of that is for us to come to ourselves and to realize He's been right all along. You see, the one thing missing from this story for me is that porch son saying something. Apologizing for his attitude. Maybe I'm looking for too much. Because I think I find myself so many times, I'm the one that's been so close to home that I don't realize how much my Father loves me. I don't know that I've ever been far enough away that I can long for Him running down the road to meet me. But I think sometimes I've been so stubborn, so set, that I've got it all figured out that He goes, just come on in the house and hush. Let's celebrate. It's not about you. It's about your brother. You see, that's the host of Christianity. When it dawns on me that all Dad's been trying to teach me through the years is this: take care of the ones who struggle. And even if I'm struggling, I'm going to have brothers and sisters who are going to take care of me. Because several months ago when I did a little series, there's always a Father waiting for us inside. Always. He'll walk out the front door. He'll walk out the back door. Doesn't matter. He'll meet us Know that wherever you go, whatever your choice, whatever you do, God's address never changes. If we can help in any way, assist you, encourage you, allow you to be a part of the family of God by penitent faith, confession, and baptism. Elliot has a song. We're going to sing that. Our elders are available. If you need them here or privately, they're available for that as we stand and as we sing.